The first thing that I want to say is, remember, we're an American family. And the people who lost children, they are your fellow Americans. And those children who lost their lives and lost their future, they are your fellow citizens. So think about them and say a prayer for them. And remember that they are as much us as our neighbors right here in this wonderful community in Wisconsin. And the thing that they need most of all is they need their fellow Americans to reach out and care about them. And I know that every single one of us is going to do that. That's the first thing that I wanted to say. The second thing that I wanted to say is, when I first heard the news, I was worried that the death toll was going to be higher based on what the media reports were saying. And right now, there are still a couple of kids, some of whom in very critical condition, who may yet survive this. And I think they would appreciate your prayers, and their families would appreciate your prayers as well. So if you are the praying type, I'd ask you to say a prayer tonight for those kids that are still recovering, that they may recover fully and go on to live a full life, the life that was deprived from a couple of their classmates. And you know, the stories, I'd encourage you to read some of the stories about what happened yesterday, about the violence, about the fact that you had 10-year-old kids laying over their friends to look after them and to try to protect them. And while yesterday was an unspeakable tragedy, I'd ask you to remember that we also saw the very best of the United States of America. And to every person who protected a friend, to every first responder, to every paramedic who made it so the death toll wasn't higher, we love you, we're proud of you, and we'll never forget the great American spirit that you showed yesterday. And on that note, there's going to be time for politics, and there's going to be a time to figure out how to prevent this stuff from happening, how to make these shootings less common in our country. And I'm not going to speak about that now, but I would encourage you, the First Lady, Melania, who really has a very big heart for children, obviously as a mother herself, she put out a statement earlier today that I think is really worth taking a look at, because this happens too much in our country. And if you look, we really do have, I think, a mental health crisis in the United States of America. We take way more psychiatric medication than any other nation on earth, and I think it's time for us to start asking some very hard questions about the root causes of this violence. And I'm going to be part of that, and the First Lady and the President are going to be part of that, but that's going to be an American conversation that we're going to have together. But before we have that conversation, if you are the praying type, I would ask you to join me in prayer. I'm just going to say a prayer for the two little kids who lost their lives yesterday. And this is a prayer we say a lot in my church, and I've always found it very meaningful. It's very short. But eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. May the souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. Thank you all. Now with that, I will take some questions from the reporters, but again, thank you all for having me, and thank you all for indulging that moment. I think it's important for our fellow Americans to know that we're reaching our arms around them and we love them, and you guys gave me the opportunity to do that, and so I'm grateful for it. God bless you.
As you know, the President this week signed an executive order around the National Guard, and so I'm curious if you can give us some more detail on that, wanting the National Guard members to be available for rapid mobilization and establish a quick reaction force. My question would be, would that quick reaction force be deployed to help with day-to-day police work, and would a governor, like the governor of Wisconsin, have the option to say no to any deployment nationwide?
Well, let me say a few things about this. First of all, the principle at stake here is very simple. Americans ought to feel safe on American streets. How many of us... How many of us have crossed to the other side of the street because there's a person on the street corner yelling and screaming at our kids or at our family? How many people have felt scared to walk down the street of an American neighborhood in daylight or at night because those streets are considered no-go zones? How ridiculous is it that we ever let there be no-go zones on streets paid for by American taxpayers? You bought those streets, you ought to be able to enjoy them as American citizens. It's very, very simple. So that is the principle at stake here. And in Washington, D.C., let's step back a little bit. Washington, D.C. got to a point where it was having a murder more than every other day. The national capital of the most powerful nation in the history of the world had a murder every other day, carjackings, armed robberies that rival literal third world countries. And the President of the United States said, this is America's city and enough is enough, and he deployed the National Guard to fix it. Now, that was the right decision at the time. But I don't know how anybody can look at the results over the last 14 days and say anything other than thank God Donald Trump did what he did. Because armed robberies, carjackings, murders are down between 40 to 90%. Even the very Democratic mayor of D.C. said yesterday that she was grateful for the additional police presence because it made it possible for people, Americans, black, white, rich, and poor, to enjoy the nation's capital again. And that's what I want. I mean, all of you, Washington, D.C. is your town. You literally built it with your tax dollars. You should be able to come and go to one of these beautiful museums or see one of these incredible monuments without fear that you're going to get mugged. And that's what we have changed in just a short period of time. And you asked the Wisconsin-specific question. What the president has said is that, very simply, we want governors and mayors to ask for the help. The President of the United States is not going out there forcing this on anybody, though we do think that we have the legal right to clean up America's streets if we want to. But what the President has said is very simply is, why don't you invite us in? Is Milwaukee a super safe city right now? It's had some crime problems. It's a beautiful city. There are a lot of beautiful, incredible, hardworking people who live there, but let's be honest, Milwaukee has had some crime problems. So have other parts of our community. Chicago, I know we're not too far from Chicago. Chicago's had a lot of crime problems. Why is it that you have mayors and governors who are angrier about Donald Trump offering to help them than they are about the fact that their own residents are being carjacked and murdered in the streets? It doesn't make an ounce of sense. And the last... And the last point that I'll make about this, sir, is, I'm going to violate the advice I gave to the President of the United States yesterday, because we were having lunch yesterday and the President said, JD, I don't know how I did it. I have actually got the Democrats to come out in defense of crime. And it is the crazy, if Donald Trump came out tomorrow and said he really likes puppies, you would have AOC come out and say puppies are terrible. So you have Donald Trump, who has reduced murders, carjackings, and armed robberies in 14 days in Washington, D.C., and now you have national Democrats coming out and saying, oh, well, we love murders and carjackings and armed robberies. Why won't Democrats just use some common sense? We're going to disagree about stuff from time to time. I'm sure Democrats want higher taxes and I want lower taxes. We may disagree about some foreign policy issues, but on this basic principle that murdering people, armed robberies, carjackings are bad, wouldn't it be nice if the Democrats just worked a little across the aisle for once? Next question.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Matt Smith, WISN TV in Milwaukee. To what you just said, Milwaukee's mayor the other day said absolutely not to any talk of National Guard troops. Would the administration consider ever coming into a city like Milwaukee?
Well, again, we want to be invited into Milwaukee. We want to help people. We want to help our fellow citizens. And we think that if you look at the crime rates, if you look at the murders in Milwaukee, if you look at certain neighborhoods where people are unafraid to go out even in the middle of the day, we would love to come and help the people of Milwaukee. But the President of the United States has said he wants to be asked. And that has been his consistent line from the very beginning, that we have an incredible law enforcement capability in the United States. You know what's crazy about crime? Is most of the violent crime is committed by a very small number of people. When we talk about a violent crime problem, we're not talking about thousands upon thousands of people in Milwaukee. We're talking about a few hundred people who probably commit 90% of the violent crime. We would love to come in and help lock up those violent criminals. I hope the mayor of Milwaukee gets some common sense and actually fights for her residents for a change, or his residents for a change, because we would love to actually help cut down on the crime in this community.